what's not known or not discussed enough is the massive contamination and environmental disaster that happened in Iraq, and as a result, it's caused massive deformities in children born in Iraq right now. So, Desi, can you speak a little bit about that?
Depleted uranium essentially is what it is. It's depleted uranium. It's used in weaponry primarily because it can penetrate armor, and it was used a lot by the U.S. troops. The UK troops used some of it as well, but the U.S. troops used quite a bit of it, and they won't tell the UN anywhere where they used these areas so that they can be decontaminated. But right now, the incidence of birth defects and deformities in communities that were targeted by U.S. troops is really astounding. I'm not sure what the exact number was. I think we have some graphics on that.
We do. So the birth defects in Fallujah, it's 14 times higher than in Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the atomic bombs were dropped. And we have graphics of the pictures of the kids.
All right, these are extremely,
yes.
extremely
so be
graphic.
ready to.
Yeah, if you're squeamish, please look away. This is bad.
It's really
look at
horrific.
this. Now, this is not even counting the many babies who are. See, this one's born with 2 heads. And the doctors there say they have never seen this kind of deformity before. I mean, this child has half its intestines and organs outside the body and multiple legs.
It's really depressing to see that's what's going on. Also, just to make a point of this, that the United Nations last December in the General Assembly attempted to pass a resolution saying that we should use the precautionary principle when it comes to the use of depleted uranium. But the U.S., the UK, France, and Israel voted against that resolution to take depleted uranium out of the mix. Against 155 other countries said that we should stop using it. And unfortunately, the United States is in favor of continuing it, even though it has such an environmental destruction. It's very difficult to clean up out of the environment, and it has these very clear connections to these horrible defects.
You know, it's not just the Iraqis who are suffering. It's our own soldiers, too, because there are a lot of soldiers who are also suffering from depleted uranium contamination.
Yes.
And what's happening to them is they're getting these massive headaches where it's debilitated. They can't move. They're also urinating blood.
Right. They're getting diagnosed with cancer.
Mm-hmm. And the cancer rate in Fallujah is through the roof. Back in the 90s, it used to be, after the Iraq War in 91, there was a cancer rate of between 40, and then it moved up to 800 people per 100,000 Iraqis. Mm-hmm. Now that rate is above 1,600 Iraqis per 100,000.
So this is why I think a lot of young voters sympathize with the Libertarian Party, and why, even though Ron Paul didn't stand a chance, the fact that he doesn't want to do these ridiculous invasions and he doesn't want to buy into the military-industrial complex is very appealing to people such as myself. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, libertarians lose me when it comes to certain other policies like fiscal policy, but we need a party that will reject the notion that we need to invade other countries to spread democracy. And of course, that's always a facade. That's not what we're really doing. We're going into other countries.
If we go to another country, I want to see what we're doing there. We need to see these pictures. Everyone has to see these pictures. I mean, the media should show these pictures. We need to see pictures of our coffins of our soldiers coming back. We're not allowed to show that.
That's the failure of the mainstream press. And it's the duty of new media to get involved and to expose it, which is why we're doing this story now, however graphic it is. And the reason why the mainstream media doesn't cover these stories is because of something that we talk about on a regular basis on the show. They are bought off by corporations. Think about how the media covered the Iraq War, leading up to the Iraq War.
God, yes.
I mean, it was ridiculous. If you said anything against invading Iraq, you would have been shunned in the mainstream press.
Well, the Dixie, yes.
People were fired. The Dixie Chicks were just completely criticized in the mainstream media. Michael Moore was completely criticized in the mainstream media.
Phil Donahue lost his show. He was required to bring on two conservatives for his one being a liberal. Other correspondents.
Ashley Banfield was banned. I mean, and they kept her under contract so she couldn't go work anywhere else and talk her, anti-war rhetoric. So they just kept her in a closet and said, here's money, just keep your mouth shut, and do that for a few years. And that was by the so-called liberal MSNBC people, because they're owned by GE, which is one of the main defense contractors.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you can see how money influences our media. The media is bought, and our politicians are bought, and that's why we stumbled into this war that we never should have been in.
I think we were more driven. I don't think we was stumbling at
You're
all.
right.
I think we were actually,
choreographed.
driven and herded like cattle, basically, into this. It was choreographed. It was bought and paid for, as you say, via the media, via the entire military-industrial complex. Everybody that had something to gain from this, and even people who didn't, got roped into pushing us into the war. And it's as if we have learned nothing from this.